know why people are acting so surprised. Donald Trump is doing exactly what it is that he said he was going to do, and dismantling the Department of Education was most definitely on his to-do list. And shrinking the Department of Education to save taxpayer dollars, a department that has not been effective, that has been failing, factually failing, statistically proven to be failing our children all across the United States. I don't know how many different ways the White House needs to say this, but all of the programs within the Department of Education, the federal funding, the aid, the Pell Grants, none of that is being eliminated. None of that is being eliminated. All of that is being realigned. And education is going back under the state, as it should have been. The government should not be dictating education. It was a very liberal push, and then liberal ideology was being pushed into our education system. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So again, more than $3 trillion was wasted, taxpayer dollars wasted, on a department that was not effective, that was leaving no student behind and passing every child. Children graduating at the top of their class, but couldn't read at an 8th grade level. That is failing our education system. That is failing our students. Either way, the programs that the department manages are not going to be eliminated. You're welcome.
Everybody knows it's right. In a few moments, I will sign an executive order to begin eliminating the Federal Department of Education once and for all. And it sounds strange, doesn't it? Department of Education, we're going to eliminate it. And everybody knows it's right. And the Democrats know it's right, and I hope they're going to be voting for it because ultimately it may come before them, but everybody knows it's right.
Wow, he really did it. The president has officially signed an executive order to dismantle the Department of Education. This is huge and was one of the core policies outlined in Project 2025, right here on page 319 of the Conservative Playbook. And by the way, the authors of this very chapter were at the White House today for the signing. But Daria, can he really do that? Can DJT eliminate an entire department unilaterally? Well, technically no, but it's a bit more complicated than that. The order, which is officially titled Improving Education Outcomes by Empowering Parents, States, and Communities, directs the Secretary of Education in Section 2 to close the Department of Education to the maximum extent appropriate and permitted by law in order to, quote, return authority over education to the states and local communities while ensuring the effective and uninterrupted delivery of services, programs, and benefits on which Americans rely. Now, these two phrases are a bit contradictory because on one hand, they're ordering Linda McMahon, the First Lady of WWE, aka the Secretary of Education, to do everything in her power to dismantle the department. But on the other hand, they're also saying she's mandated to rigorously comply with federal law. And the order itself offers no guidance on how to square those two. So it's confusing. Even more complex is the fact that DJT and his team don't actually have the power to do this. The Department of Education was established through congressional action in 1979. So in order to actually eliminate the department, it would have to go through Congress. Both the House of Representatives and the Senate would have to agree to dismantle and eliminate the department. Still, there are things DJT can do, and some of it he already has, including firing many of the DOE workers and cutting important policies and practices, many related to federal testing. And to be clear, this is wildly unpopular amongst most Americans. It's why when Ronald Reagan tried to do this exact thing in 1980, he failed miserably, and the Department of Education survived both his terms. And ironically, the people who are going to be most affected by this are likely to be counties that voted for DJT. Schools in rural and low-income areas, especially in red states, rely on the Department of Education for funding and resources. It will be up to Congress to stand up for their constituents and stop this. But who knows if the Republican lawmakers will be willing to go against the Don.
And just like that, with the stroke of his pen, Donald Trump has dismantled the Department of Education, just like he campaigned for. It's so crazy. Us Trump supporters are getting exactly what we voted for. We wanted him to get rid of the Department of Education, and that's what he's working on. Now, I know what y'all gonna say. Y'all liberals gonna say, oh, well, he can't get rid of the Department of Education. The Congress got to do that. Yeah. We understand. That's why I said dismantle. Anyway, let's go ahead and get the talking points out the way. Oh, well, Donald Trump, he don't care about the kids. How about these starving kids going to focus on education if they can't eat? And he just got rid of the Department of Education, where there's something called a Department of Agriculture. They'll be making sure that them kids are well fed. And what else y'all out here saying? Oh, well, what about the Pell Grants? What about FAFSA? What if he gets rid of the Department of Education? How will our kids be able to pay for school? Well, you know what's so funny? Since Trump got rid of dismantled Department of Education, those responsibilities will be handled by the Department of Treasury. I'm just saying, what more do y'all want from Donald Trump? He is reducing federal spending. He is expanding schools' choice. I'm just saying, once again, the liberal propaganda machine is going to spin it and act like he's doing something terrible, and watch how beneficial it is. Look at the test scores. They not improving since the Department of Education, which was created by a Democratic president, Jimmy Carter. Since it's been created, test scores hadn't gone up. Students can't even read and do math on their grade level. You know how bad that is? We are not top 5, top nothing in education, and it's time to get that standard back. Shout out for Donald J. Trump for dismantling the Department of Education and allowing the states to handle it. I know y'all gonna get in the comments and come with every other fact about how it's wrong. At the end of the day, dismantle. It's out of here.
It's official. As of 2 hours ago, Trump has officially signed the executive order shutting down the Department of Education. Trump signing this executive order is not only straight out of Project 2025 and their promises, but it also will harm 2 out of 3, if not all, Americans.
Hi, I just wanted to mention to you about President Trump's executive order today that he was going to abolish the U.S. Department of Education. Now, a lot of people are very upset about that, and they're upset because they think that the Department of Education is over curriculum or academics in their child's schools. That is not true. The Department of Education does funding. It does not do academics or curriculum. That is done by your state and your state Department of Education, or, it just depends on which state you're from. And it's also, a lot of it's done by your local school board and your groups of teachers. So I just wanted to dispel some of the misconceptions about him doing away with the U.S. Department of Education. First of all, the U.S. Department of Education was started in 1979 by President Jimmy Carter. Our U.S. Congress approved it and made it official in 1980. So it has not been around forever. And so one of the reasons that he is saying that he wants to abolish the U.S. Department of Education is because he wants to put it somewhere where the funding, which is its sole responsibility, can be handled by someone that is more capable of handling funding. Because he says he does not believe that they lack the common system to track and manage the misuse of funds. Again, misuse of funds. We're seeing this throughout our federal bureaucracies, that we see all of these funds. They have a $102 billion budget, and we're seeing all of these funds being misused. We're seeing so much waste, abuse, and fraud in these federal agencies. So President Trump is looking at it like this. We can take this same funding that we're giving to primary and secondary education, as well as higher education. We can see this same funding, put it somewhere that they can do a better job of managing finances. He is not doing anything to stop education. That is what your state boards of education do. In Texas, we have the Texas Education Code. It is managed by the Texas Education Agency, and that is who is responsible for education in my state. In your state, it could be you will have something very similar. And what he did not say is that they're going to stop funding. Please, if you hear anyone say that, please stop them from saying that. That is not true. Now, what he did say is that we're going to cut this bureaucracy, because instead of us paying salaries of people over $100,000 a year for ever how many thousands of employees, that same money we can use and put to a better use by giving it to our schools, our primary, secondary educators, education entities, as well as higher education, and we can have a better product. And what is the product? The product are our students. Our children, our people that graduate, our adults that graduate from colleges, that's the product. He feels that that same amount of money can be used and put to a better use. And let me tell you this. This is according to trends in the test scores, which are called Trends in International Mathematics and Science Study. They're TIM scores. Since 2019, fourth graders fell 18 points in math. Eighth graders fell 27 points in math, according to the TIMS reports that come out on that testing system since 2019. Also, just something else, according to Pew Research, in 2022, the United States was below the average in the world in math, but they were above in science. But just to let you know this, in math, out of 37 countries in math, the United States ranked 28. In science, out of 37 countries, the United States ranked 12. So you understand what President Trump is trying to do is take the funds that were used to pay salaries of people who don't want to go to work. He wants to take that money and give the money to the states so that your children can be better educated. I just wanted to make sure that you understood that the Department of Education does funding. Your state boards of education, or whatever your state calls it, they're the ones that do academics, and President Trump did not anytime say that he was cutting funding for education. Thank you.
So Trump signed an executive order effectively dissolving the Department of Education. And people are upset about that, but they should be more upset the Department of Education has not been doing what it was supposed to be doing ever since it was founded. Because if it was, you would have known that on this day, March 20th, 171 years ago, that is the date the Republican Party was actually founded in Wisconsin in a little white schoolhouse in the town of Ripon. And it was founded because of what happened there in that area just a few days before, when a escaped slave by the name of Joshua Glover, he was actually apprehended and he was about to be sent back to his master, who had found out where he was and sent people to capture him. But those townspeople up in Wisconsin, they were so outraged because they were very abolitionist, very much against slavery, against the Democrat Southern slavery policies. They actually rallied together, almost 5,000 of them. They went down to the jailhouse where Joshua Glover was being held, and they forcibly entered the jail, removed him from the jail, and sent him on his way through various safe houses in the Wisconsin area so he could get up to Canada and secure his freedom. Now, if the Department of Education was doing what it was supposed to do, you would have known that already. And people are so upset about Trump dissolving it without realizing the Department of Education has done so much more harm than good over these past several decades, because they are more concerned with pushing their own liberal ideology onto children in the Department of Education than teaching actual real history that should be discussed. And that should be what the conversation should be all about.
The most uneducated and misinformed people in the United States are currently cheering for the dismantling of the Department of Education. If that doesn't clearly illustrate the condition that the United States is in, I don't know what does. And that condition, it's not great again. Not at all.
Thank you for watching Great Minds Blacks.